Welcome back, All Things MSP crew. This is Eric Anthony back again with another vendor update. Now, these vendor updates are to help you understand what some of these vendors in the space do and provide you an annual update of what they're up to and maybe some of the highlights from their previous year. Now, this vendor that I have today is no stranger to the space. They are somebody who absolutely goes 110% out for the community and provides, I think, a pretty unique offering that nobody really else, in my experience anyway, has brought to MSPs in a way that MSPs can best consume it. And of course, I am talking about Nerdio. And of course, I have Will from Nerdio here with me today. Hey,
Eric.
Will.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful Friday in Boston, and lots of things are happening in the Microsoft and Nerdio world.
Awesome. So, because this is your guys' first time on All Things MSP as a vendor update, usually one of the things I ask you to do is go ahead and tell everybody what Nerdio does and what it solves for the MSP.
Yeah, happy to do that. So Nerdio, we help MSPs build successful cloud practices with Microsoft. We're all about lowering the amount of risk, time, labor, and increasing profitability and overall results for end users and the MSP. So we do everything from Azure infrastructure, Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, all the way down to Microsoft 365. So all of those little things MSPs need to do with Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint Online and Exchange, right? We help them simplify that in an MSP-centric approach.
And that's the key, right? Is because Microsoft does so much today and it touches SMBs, especially in a whole bunch of different vectors. And it's hard for the regular MSP to get their hands around all of those different things in a way that makes it super efficient. And efficiency is the way MSPs make money.
Exactly. MSPs for years have talked about automation, right? And how do we become more efficient? And it's because you have to. There's only so many hours in a day. We only have so much money. It's crazy hard to go and recruit and hire our people as well as get new customers and logos. MSPs always, are out there trying to figure out how to do sales and bring them on. And the way we can make ourselves more profitable is get those efficiencies and be able to deliver the wide range of services we need to for the customers we are able to sign on.
And, you guys are really well known for the virtual desktop part of the cloud space. But what are some of the other things that you do that can help MSPs with the non-virtual desktop side of things?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something I'm very passionate and excited about because for a couple of years, as we were building Nerdio, we really were centered around virtual desktops, but we kept getting asked by MSPs, you helped me so much with Microsoft and virtual desktops there. What about the rest of the Microsoft cloud? Because I'm struggling with that. There aren't tools out there that I can use to manage all of these components in an MSP-centric approach. And so we've launched our Microsoft 365 management suite. And what I mean by that is we have this portal, our same software that MSPs have been using for years around virtual desktops, where they can go in and they can do things like create shared mailboxes. They can manage Active Directory, whatever flavor of Active Directory their customer needs, you can manage it, or policies for Entra ID, or things like Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint. And then we've also complemented some of the things that you get with Microsoft. For example, we have a remote control tool built right into our product and it's bundled with our licensing. So if you're an MSP that's looking at, an increase in your current or existing remote control tool or looking for a new one, you can actually use Nerdio not just to manage Microsoft 365 and the physical endpoints, the Windows machines, the mobile devices, all of that's available, but you can now also shadow a user's session. So when they call in, you're not hopping between portals. You're not hopping between different products. It's all centralized in a single location.
It's kind of bringing that single pane of glass to both the on-premise endpoint as well as the cloud endpoint.
Exactly. And, if you think about it, I go back to my MSPs days, and when I talk to MSPs, what do we do as MSPs? We bring on another product, another portal, I know another license I have to add in. And we're trying to be the tool that you can do everything out of. Now, are you going to do that with Nerdio? I hope so, but I'm also realistic. Like, MSPs are always looking at the best of breed solutions, and that's fine. Go use them. But we also will give you the opportunity to be able to use Nerdio for everything from infrastructure to remote control to managing your secure score and doing reporting and managing the tenants and password resets and all of that great stuff. So you have the flexibility to run the MSP the way that you want to, and not have to necessarily bring in all of these third-party products at an expense, and also in some ways a security risk. Right? A lot of these third-party products require agents out there. Nerdio doesn't require an agent to do all of our baseline components that I've already talked about, because we're integrated into the OS, into that Microsoft stack.
So what are some of the cool things that are happening out there when we're talking about cloud and especially virtual desktops and things like that? What are some of the more forward-thinking MSPs doing in terms of opportunity in the cloud?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. They're really thinking about security, right? And I remember maybe 2, 3 years ago, we're like the year of security. This will be over. Well, that's not ending, right? So virtual desktops, I think, are continuing to grow in terms of market share because of security. You can gate that business, desktop, and you don't have to worry about, the threats that can happen to a physical device and data sitting out there. And data sprawl is a big issue for MSPs. And so that's something that, we really think about. And another thing that we've added into our product is a partnership with CIS, the Center for Internet Security. So we didn't say like Nerdio, who are we to say we're security experts? We're not. We're infrastructure. We're Microsoft management. And so we said, let's partner with, the number one company out there leading the way. And so what an MSP can do is if they want to launch an Azure virtual desktop, they don't need to worry about coming up with all of the security standards. They can go into Nerdio and say, I want to provision a virtual desktop with the CIS security controls and hardening. And they just click a button. And that's it. And they actually have that image from CIS that instead of them going out and paying for it or spending all the time figuring it out, it's just done with the click of a button.
Yeah, that's amazing and really important when we talk about bringing efficiencies to the MSP, especially when it comes to security, because security is one of those things where you have to check all the boxes correctly. And if you're trying to do it manually, that is just the biggest pain. And if you miss something, now you're liable for it. So anytime I think an MSP can hand that type of automation off to somebody who has the credentials of somebody like CIS, I think that's a win.
For sure. I mean, I remember when I was at my MSPs, and I would sometimes, I was the sales guy, not the big brain, but I'd sometimes be sitting there cringing as we're self-attesting. We have this, we have this. Like, yes, we have great people, we have great processes, we have great technology, but we're also checking off saying this. That's a lot of risk for the MSP. And in the case of virtual desktops and our partnership with CIS, you don't have to do that. You can prove exactly I am using their benchmarks, their standards, their hardening, and I can shift some of that risk away. At least I've done everything, and I don't have to worry about that potential human error, right? And take that on at my MSP.
Absolutely. Now, there's, another part of this, because you mentioned Azure early on, and I know that a lot of MSPs have not adopted a lot of the really cool things that you can do with Azure and, the different, workflows and things that you can do with Azure and the different types of storage. What are some of the things that you're seeing MSPs leverage within the SMB space to take advantage of Azure?
Yeah, it's a good point, because a lot of MSPs might not want or need or think that they have a use case for a virtual desktop solution. But Azure itself is limitless in what you can do. There's pretty much have a solution for anything. So a lot of times what we see is traditional server refreshes. Why am I going to go out and have a capital expense for a piece of hardware that's already aging out? We have lots of economic conditions and things happening in the world, uncertainty around hardware and what that's going to be. So we see people provisioning a server, or you can kind of do the new cool thing. You can use something like Azure Files. It's a file server, but it's serverless. I don't need to put my AV on it. I don't need to put my RMM agent on it. And I can still deliver the outcome to the end customer, which is I just need a file share that people can access. And when you use Nerdio, we layer on some pretty neat technology. And I'll give you an example. Instead of the old days of buying a server and provisioning it with 8 terabytes, because who knows how much storage they're going to need in 3 or 5 or 10 years, however long they hold on to that, you can provision a storage repository in Azure Files for just a little bit of storage. You're only paying for exactly what you need. And Nerdio can monitor that. As the storage starts to get full, we'll add 10 gigs, only pay for that extra 10 gigs, right? And as it gets full, we'll provision another 10 gigs or 50 gigs or whatever you need. So you're not throwing your IT budget out the door for maybe what might happen in the future. You're only going to pay for exactly what you need today. And I don't have to worry about predicting the future. I'm just going to be investing wisely into my IT budget.
Awesome. So now, what are some of the cool things that Nerdio did in 2024? And I know you guys do a lot of cool stuff, so this might be a little hard.
Yeah, so we do a lot of things. Some of the things I'm really proud of in 2024 was our official launch of the complete Microsoft 365 management. We have been doing some things with Microsoft 365 management, namely Intune, but we also realized not every MSP is ready yet to adopt a full Intune enrollment strategy. So kind of broadening that. Another thing that we've done is we launched our enhanced support product. Enhanced support is really for those MSPs that say, listen, I maybe don't want to have or need this deep bench of Microsoft experience, but I still get those tickets. I still get those issues that happen with my customers. And, I have to open a ticket with Microsoft. I maybe wait a day or two. I get sent to a different team. And my customer the whole time is kind of waiting, right? They're under pressure. I'm under pressure. And so we said, we have all this great internal knowledge here at Nerdio about Microsoft. So let's release this enhanced support where we go way beyond our traditional scope. And instead of opening that ticket with Microsoft, you open the ticket with Nerdio. We respond in under an hour, and we can typically resolve that issue. And if we can't, right, if it's truly a Microsoft outage or issue, we will point you so you know exactly what to say to Microsoft when you open that ticket. So there's no pointing fingers. We can even get on the call with you while you're talking to Microsoft to ensure the proper information is being relayed to them and really lower the amount of time that your customer is experiencing pain. Because if you're an MSP and you've ever dealt with this, it doesn't matter who and where it is. Like your customer's threatening to leave you and get out of the contract. It doesn't matter. You just need it solved, and we're going to be that company that can help you solve that issue.
Yeah, been there, done that with Microsoft tickets, by the way.
Yeah.
That is not an uncommon story. Now, tell me a little bit more about this 365 management. What does that do for an MSP?
Yeah, so it does a lot of things. One of the things too is when we launched this, we said, MSPs are getting a lot of pricing pressure right now. Add another agent, prices are changing and increasing. And we said we have to continue to innovate. And certainly we have a per user per month price model like most people do in the industry. But we said in our innovation, the way that we do this, let's also give them a flexible pricing option. And so what we launched with was this alternate pricing methodology where you can license Nerdio to manage Microsoft 365 on a per customer basis versus a per user basis. We don't care how many users you have at that customer. And it greatly simplifies the way that you can do your billing. So that's something I'm really excited about. The CIS partnership is another one when we talk about Microsoft 365. So yes, we have it on the AVD side, but we also have it on the M365 side. We have their policies and their hardening for physical laptops, right? And that's really important for that MSP that says my customer or I'm not ready to go full into Azure infrastructure, but I need to manage these laptops. You can push out their policy standards for Windows 10 or Windows 11. And just by doing that, go watch that secure score go from 20% to 95%. It's absolutely a game changer. And again, the same benefits that I talked about before with AVD, you're going to get on the physical side, right? You're not going to have that risk. You're not going to have to copy all the policies. And when CIS changes their benchmarks or their recommendations, it flows right into Nerdio. And then you can push that right out to all of your customers with the press of a single button. So we make that very easy from a multi-tenant management standpoint.
Well, Will, it really sounds like Nerdio continues to evolve and bring these things to market to help MSPs who are, whether they're hybrid cloud or whether they're trying to move completely 100% cloud, you're giving them the tools to worry less about the infrastructure and the management and giving them that single pane of glass, I'll say it again, to kind of manage that, but in a much more easy and efficient way. And I think that's something that any MSP who is kind of switching their focus from infrastructure management to business solution delivery is really something that is going to be helpful for them.
Yeah, as an MSP, you're thinking about your team. You're thinking about how to put food on the table for your whole team. You're thinking about how to deliver real outcomes to your customers. And what we can do is make it so you don't have to be in that day-to-day minutia of managing policy. Why is this policy blocking something? We can give you the reporting, the intelligence behind it. We can give you the simple point and click and the standardization across all of your customers. That's the difficulty with Microsoft 365, right? You bring on a customer, you apply a bunch of policies, you set them up in a certain way. 6 months later, you bring on another customer, you try to copy it as best you can, but you got to keep your labor costs low. You don't want to charge too much, 40 hours for a migration into this. And it's just easy for things to get missed. And Nerdio takes all of that guesswork out of it. You can onboard a customer to your standardization in about an hour or less.
That's awesome. So I have one more question. Where is NerdioCon this year?
This year, NerdioCon in 2025 is going to be in Palm Springs. So I'm really excited. A little bit
Oh,
different from where we've done it before,
yep.
coming to the United States, but I think it offers some benefits, a little less travel for certain people, depending on where you're coming from. And honestly, the most excited thing I'm excited about is our partnership with Microsoft. There are so many sessions that are being led by Microsoft around both AVD and infrastructure, as well as modern work. If you're an MSP that wants to learn about Intune, you're going to be in a session learning about Intune from Microsoft, the people that own and run Intune at Microsoft, as well as Nerdio employees. You're going to learn about Defender from people that work at Microsoft and manage Defender. So you're going to get knowledge and information unlike anywhere else in the MSP industry. There's really nobody else I'm seeing out there that can actually bring Microsoft into these conversations and also allow you as an MSP to give your feedback to Microsoft and say, hey, this would really help us from an MSP perspective. And Microsoft's done a fantastic job in actually listening to MSP feedback, and we can give you that venue to be able to do it.
That's awesome. And I know that Palm Springs, absolutely an amazing venue, lots to do around there. And the airport is an experience in and of itself, especially for a small airport. So, Will, thank you so much for doing this and introducing Nerdio to the All Things MSP community. I hope we get a chance to do more of this in the future, and have a great day.
You as well. Great to talk, Eric.